So, welcome back to the Raising Our Vibration podcast, where we explore higher consciousness through spiritual practice. Today, Stephen and I are going to talk about or ask the question, is meditation dulling your mind? So, this comes up in our meditation classes, our meditation groups, especially with people who are either in the initial stages of learning meditation or who have a practice that's really centered just on relaxation or stress reduction. So you might think, oh, well, relaxation, stress reduction, isn't that the purpose of meditation? And that's certainly the way that it is often used, especially in Western culture, to de-stress, right? To generate conscious relaxation and so on. And then there's important value to that for sure, especially in these times when we are so overwhelmed and so anxious and so overbusy. So, but really, relaxation is just the very beginning of meditation. And if you overemphasize that, then it can actually lead you to a dead end in meditation. If your meditation practice is just about relaxation, then you get deeper and deeper and deeper into relaxation, and maybe to the point where your posture droops forward and your jaw drops open. You may even feel some drool kind of dribbling out of your mouth. Okay, if that's your meditation practice, you've overemphasized relaxation. There's a balance there between attention and relaxation that you're not quite hitting the right balance. And if your practice is only about relaxation, with a lot of people use meditation in that way and even use meditation as a way to kind of get out of here, like get out of their body, get out of their life and just take a break, like it's a vacation. Well, again, that's can be an important part of meditation, but ultimately that's a dead end in meditation. That's not going to lead you to greater awareness and insight and clarity and stability of mind in your practice. And so today we want to talk about those elements and how subtle energy meditation can lead to a brightening of your awareness, a brightening of your energy field, and a feeling or a sense of clarity, brightness, alertness that is also at the same time deeply relaxed. And that then is a portal to deeper insights and deeper awareness. So I'd like to now share my screen. And for those of you who are listening on the podcast and not watching on YouTube, this graphic we'll put in the thumbnail of the podcast so you can also see this graphic. And if you are watching on YouTube, I'm just going to, if you see my little, Stephen, can you see the little hand here? Okay, so I'm going to take you through this subtle energy meditation practice. This was a practice I did 2 days ago, and it's my typical part of my morning practice, the light, love, and peace meditation into awareness itself. And so let me describe this practice. The top graphic here is an EEG taken on flow time. So it's just measuring the frontal brain activity. That's what flow time does. Its sensors are here. It also measures heart rate and breath coherence. And it has this really interesting measure in the bottom graphic of attention and relaxation. So this really relates to our topic today. So let me take you through this practice. I'm going to describe the brain waves that you see and also describe their correlation with attention, levels of attention and relaxation as I go through this approximately 30-minute session. So at the beginning, from 0 to about 5 minutes in this practice, is lower dantian breathing. So I'm focusing into the lower abdomen, and I'm consciously breathing there, feeling the breath expand in the lower dantian, and really generating deep relaxation, but also concentration and energy in the lower dantian. So there's this balance of relaxation, but also energy activation. And you can see here that in that portion of the practice, there's probably about a 50-50 attention to relaxation in the graph below. And if you see, look above, there's the brain waves are beta, alpha, theta in top here, and then delta and gamma below. So, and you'll see there's this point in the practice, maybe it's right about here with the gamma is at the lowest, and that's where I've really settled into relaxation in the lower dantian, and I'm going to start focusing on the energy concentrating in the perineum. You can see gamma start to go up here, and when I have a good sense that the energy is really built in the perineum, then I'm doing this breathing up through the central channel. And you can see very clearly when I start to do that, the energy level, there's a high beta and gamma at the top of the graph as it goes up. And then if you look down at attention relaxation, look what happens to attention as I'm shifting states. So as I'm shifting to a new state, attention is really activated. And then once I kind of arrive at that state, in this sense, it's this sense of light in the upper dantian and crown, above the crown. So there's this brightness, this clarity, this energy of light. And as I just settle into that, which happens right about here where it flattens out, you'll see that attention goes down and relaxation goes up. So attention is used to shift to that state, but once that state is recognized, and it's very familiar because I've done this practice for years, then attention kind of drops down and there's just a relaxation across this state. Now, about halfway through, there's a subtle shift from the energy above the crown and in the upper dantian, the light up here, down into the heart, and really breathing love in and out through the heart. So that's the third dantian in this practice. So lower dantian, lower abdomen, then upper dantian, light, and then in the heart center or the middle dantian, there's this breathing of love in and out through the heart. And you'll see right as I make the shift, there's a little spike of attention as there's a shift in attention, but then it quickly stabilizes. And I find that the energy up here and the energy in the heart is it's so connected and so grooved that there's not a lot of attention required to shift from the upper dantian to the middle dantian. So very quickly, that attention stabilizes, relaxation elevates, and riding out through that portion of the practice, it's pretty consistent there. So that's the lower, upper, and middle dantians. That's kind of the energy center part of the practice there. And now next in this practice, there's a downshift, and the energy is just dropped. Everything is dropped, and there's just a resting down into stillness. So you'll see when there's that shift, the brain waves definitely significantly change to where now we're back to where there's the beta, alpha, theta up top, and the gamma starts to lower down as the energy drops down. You'll see during this shift, there's a raising of attention, there's spikes of attention as I kind of let go of that energy state and drop into stillness. And right about here, you'll see where I start to kind of settle into that stillness, the gamma starts to drop down here. And you'll see as I settle into that stillness, that silence, also attention drops. Okay, so as I'm kind of finding that state and settling into it, Energy lowers, attention lowers, relaxation comes up. Okay, so there's a real letting go in that phase of the practice. So you see each of these phases of this practice have a real specific focus and intention. There's a cultivation of different qualities of awareness in each of these different states. And that's what makes this such a phenomenal practice is it's kind of like a training of attention and awareness through all different states, which all integrate into this wholeness integrated practice. Okay, so now we've dropped down into this silence and stillness. And now there's the next phase of the practice is down in that silence and stillness. Then I just become aware of the whole field of awareness. And I have a sense of, and this, it was very interesting because I started using this meditation cue for myself, everything, everywhere, all at once. And then interestingly, this movie came out of the same title this year. Not quite the same meaning though in that movie. But anyway, I'm going into this felt sense of just everything, everywhere, all at once. So it's this phenomenal unity of awareness, vastness, and real brightness and aliveness of the whole space. I feel that the whole space is aware and alive and bright. And you'll see in the transition, again, here's the transition into that elevated energy state. And look down here at attention. There's that moment of transition where attention is really high. And then as I settle into that and that just stabilizes, then the brain waves kind of flatten out in that elevated state. And look at attention, it drops down because attention isn't needed just to remain in a stable state in the same way. Okay, it doesn't drop to nothing, but it drops down. And now at the end of that, so there's a little drop here. So what I do in this last part of the practice is just drop it all. So, and you can see the drop right here in energy. You can see the shift of attention there. Again, there's a spike of attention as I shift states. And then here I just drop everything and just rest as awareness itself, as just being aware of being aware, just resting as awareness, no content, nothing arising, just this kind of stable sense of awareness itself. And you'll see then that attention is very stable and kind of flat across here. And so that's kind of the culmination of this practice. And another thing I want to note here is look at the lowering of the gamma waves. So that in these quiet or still sections, the first section here, where I'm breathing in the lower dantian, and then in the stillness, they're a little bit lower. And then when all content is dropped out, then the gamma is really low and the theta is overriding. So there's an overriding theta and gamma is dropped down really low when there's no content to experience. There's simple awareness. And so that's the practice. It's a wonderful practice. Obviously, I love it. I've done it every day for years. And it's kind of the core of what we teach in our subtle energy meditation course. We lead up to this. And the other thing I want to note on our subject for today is look down here at the average of attention is 28 and the average of relaxation is 67. So even though we're shifting states dramatically and we're raising attention and then lowering attention, and there's an overall balance of maybe 2-to-1 of relaxation to attention. So overall, this is still a very relaxed state, even though brain waves are moving and awareness is bright and there's a lot of inner sensation until the last section. The overall practice is very relaxed. And I want to just show one more graphic to emphasize that. And so in this very same section, I did a galvanic skin response. And I'm just going to switch to that graphic. So for those of you who are listening, I'm just going to describe this graphic. So this is these two sensors on fingertips, and it's measuring basically skin response measures your level of stress versus relaxation. So if you look on the right hand here, there's a scale, and it goes from 0.8. And if I showed you the whole thing, it goes up to 16 and above. And you'll see that this whole practice goes from start to finish. The range of this, now it may look like, oh, look, there's a lot of up and down here, but the range here is 0.84 to not even 1.0 on this scale of 0 to 16. So if you look on the level of relaxation, which is in this this pie graph over here, you see 0 to 5 is a relaxation zone. And look at this pie graph. It's all 100% in the relaxed. And if you see 0 to 5 is the zone of relaxation, it's even in the bottom 20% of that. So it's in the 0 to 1 range of kind of stress response. So again, overall, it's very relaxed, but you can see from the other graphics here that subtle energy is moving, brain waves are changing, attention is modulating. And so the whole practice has this very relaxed quality, but there's a high level of attention and awareness in the practice. So hopefully that was interesting to you. This is all on Flow Time, which is a great EEG device, very affordable device. And it also, like I said, measures heart rate and breath coherence. And it's a wonderful, lightweight device that you can use to inform you about what's happening inside as you're experiencing different inner states and shifts in meditation. So I'll stop my screen share there. And I did a lot of talking there, but hopefully, Stephen, there's something there that you want to pick up on and carry through. I think my main focus there is to show that attention is really key, right? This clarity and stability of attention, even within deep relaxation. So you're not zoning out, you're not getting out of here. You are deeply relaxed, but you're highly aware enough to shift into and recognize different states. If you noticed in those shifts, they're very definite, right? You can see that's there's a real recognition inside. I'm not zoning out or going off. I'm saying, okay, now this, now that. Now, so there's clarity through the whole practice and then stability in the states. So, Stephen, what do you have to say about all that?
Kevin, I love that. We often talk about this, that when we are discussing these beautiful subjects, that we have this spontaneous arising of where we might take this with each other. So I do love it when you go into a particular direction. I think, oh, aha, it's like really. So I thought I would speak a little bit about clarity and stability from two perspectives. One is actually Andrew Newberg's, my favorite researcher.
Your pet researcher, yes.
And you know, curiously enough, Kevin, we're going to meet the translator for Andrew Newberg's book this later on this week. So I'm Erica Rowe. So I'm very keen and happy to know that that's up and coming on our agenda. So I'm going to talk a little bit about clarity from that point of view, from that research point of view, but just for a few moments. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about clarity, and we've discussed this before, from Tsoknyi Rinpoche's point of view, because the Tsoknyi Rinpoche describes dullness in some very colorful kind of language. So I'm present to the fact that clarity is really, really important, and that as you're describing these shifts in states, you're really talking about very clear shifts in states. There is, almost noticeable marks where you're shifting in the graph into different states, and you're very, very aware. You're not dull, asleep while you're experiencing these. And in fact, both the research and both the ancient traditions point to exactly this, the same importance of clarity and stability. And if you're listening to this and you're driving, because I'm going to do a very brief clarity exercise with you, if you'd like to participate in this, you may want to pull over. And if you are at home listening to this, I'm going to get you to get an object that we're going to do this very brief practice with. And Sotni Rinpoche, whenever he's done this exercise, now Sotni Rinpoche, I have the good fortune of kind of connecting to through Mingyur Rinpoche, who I've studied with for quite some time because they're brothers, they're from the same family. So Sotni Rinpoche actually recommends you do this clarity exercise with a clear glass. So I've got one of my clear green tea glasses given with me.
Very nice.
So yeah, so if you're at home, you can try this later. You may want to pause, but if you want to go and get a clear glass and then just listen into what I'm going to share. So first of all, I'll just share a little bit of what Andrew Newberg speaks about, because he speaks about the fact that with all really genuine insight or enlightening or mystical experience, there is a really core component that's called clarity. And the sense of clarity is not dullness, obviously. It is this profound sense of understanding and wisdom that arises from the meditation, from these deep insights. So it's not dullness, and you're not getting out of it. In fact, you get into it in a kind of a different way. You actually get it. And perhaps for the first time you have a glimpse, and it's just so obvious and it's so clear. You might actually feel, for example, that you have a really full understanding of how the universe works, or you might feel a whole different sense of meaning or purpose in life, or things might become a lot clearer, like the way that your whole system works in relationship, this whole incredible technology we have called the human body and the brain, how, and the heart, how all of this works in relationship to the universe. So it's an understanding of your relationship with that which is vaster than you. And this is part of the power of what Kevin was sharing, is that by starting to understand the shifts that happen in our meditation practice, we start to understand the relationship that we have with energy, subtle energy, with our body, with what lies beyond, with the transcendent. So the sense of clarity itself actually does come from our brain. So it's often described as activity in the thalamus, because that is the integration area of the brain. It actually kind of pieces things together. And so in these experiences that Kevin's just been describing, and you'll note in Kevin's graph that it's not just a flat line. It actually has really noticeable shifts. And in really deep insight or enlightening experiences, the old ideas and belief systems that are no longer really necessary, and in fact are no longer really valid, get replaced with a new system of insight, and that originates in this very strong attention-based intense experience. So the energy shifts that Kevin moves through are pointing straight to where the sense of clarity actually comes from. And so what happens is those higher order areas of the brain that are actually responsible for integrating experience and giving clarity, they actually begin to integrate the shifts that Kevin is going through, that he's going through again and again and again over many years. They're actually starting to become part of not just his belief system, but actually part of the natural order of the brain. So this new openness to experience, Kevin can adeptly shift between different experiences. And that becomes a felt sense and a sense of openness and clarity. So there's not a dullness in the practice, there's a genuine sense of clarity and openness. And so the many ideas and many aspects of those shifts can be brought to bear here. So there can be quite strong emotion associated with it. So it's not like Kevin's not feeling, and they can also have all kinds of relationships to realness and the openness of experience and the vastness of awareness itself that can arise as a whole new way of experiencing reality. And in fact, there is a dropping and a resting back into this core clarity constantly. So that's a whole shift. Instead of you identifying with your thoughts and feelings and perceptions, you're now resting back as awareness itself. And that's the practice that Tsoknyi Rinpoche and myself are going to guide you into. So I just wanted to pause for a second, Kevin, because you might want to comment on just that clarity of the shifts and the way that it brings about a whole different awareness, a place to rest.
Exactly. So there's a stability of awareness and clarity of awareness across all states. So you're not identifying with any one state. And that's another thing that I really appreciate about the Dzogchen practice is they're really keen on not flatlining in one state and identifying it with one state and thinking that's it, and kind of that there's a dullness to that too, right? If you're just, oh, I'm going to sit for 3 hours just in this one state, there can be a dullness associated with that, or an identification or attachment, or getting stuck in that state that doesn't facilitate clarity and awareness and flexibility and all the attentional skills that we need in real life. And so that's something I really appreciate in Dzogchen and in Tsoknyi Rinpoche's approach in particular, which has a lot of humor to it.
It sure does. He's a very humorous and funny Rinpoche. I enjoy him a lot in that sense. So, and it's speaking to exactly what you're bringing us to, given this 24/7, ability to bring this clarity into life, just as you're doing in the meditation practice. If you could consider it symbolically or as an analogy, that you're actually shifting through lots of different aspects of life in that meditation session. You're resting through being highly active and resting and opening to everything, and then being everything, and then coming back to a state of rest and dropping into peace. You're actually experiencing all the ways that life actually flows through you, and that you're simply experiencing those and bringing attention to it, and then resting as that, whatever is present, by where the attention has been placed. And so
right, and each of those energy centers has their own, it's kind of their own orientation to life, right? The bright clarity and openness and of upper Dantian wisdom, and then the warm open-heartedness of breathing love in and out through your heart, and then the deep peace and grounded presence of the lower Dantian, right? So moving through all of those and having this clarity and stability of awareness across all those states also integrates all of that so into this wholeness of a meditation experience.
Yeah, exactly. So as Kevin, as you've been saying, and whether you're listening or watching this, that Kevin said it again and again, that it's not a state. You're actually being that quality of clarity. When you're clear, right? I often say, when you're clear, you're clear. The moment that you're clear, it's such an aha, because you realize it's not a state that you're developing, that you've actually always been clear. And that there is this clarity that when you let go of ideas, concepts, past, future, you just simply rest as this clarity. And it's such a profound state, and it's so simple because it's always been there.
Right. It's the original clarity, right?
It's the original primordial clarity. So that's actually what I'm going to go, this really simple experience. So as I said, if you're driving and you don't happen to have a glass with you, that's okay. You could focus on the steering wheel or something like that. If you're at home and you don't have a clear glass in front of you, you can take anything that's around you. You could even use your computer screen, but it's a little bit more sticky because there's things, Kevin and I are moving around in it. So Kevin, have you got an object there that you're going to use? Oh, wonderful. Okay. You can see Kevin's, and I've got this, my green tea glass. Okay, so in very simple terms, as Kevin's been discussing, clarity is this capacity to really recognize what's present. So this can include an unlimited variety of thoughts and feelings and sensations and appearances. And generally what happens is when they're emerging in the mind, we get to this point where we have a feeling of anger or frustration with somebody, and we're suddenly identified with we think we're the anger, right? We think I'm angry, and we even say that, right? We identify with the feeling and we get stuck on it. So this is, and obviously that happens to all of us, and it's not clarity because we're starting to identify with the object itself. So this is the reason to take a simple object like this, is actually to start to see into it clearly. So what we're going to learn in this simple exercise is simply to recognize and distinguish all these thoughts and feelings and perceptions and sensations and appearance that continually emerge. So it's often called luminosity or clarity. And without clarity, we wouldn't be able to recognize any of our experiences. We would just actually conclude that we're our experience. And we would be lost in just going from one, we'd be thrown about in the tumult of life from one experience to another, thinking that, okay, I'm sad now. Oh, okay, I'm happy. Oh, think that, oh no, I'm sad. And without any clarity. And to recognize clarity, this particular meditation using a physical object is going to be the focus of your attention. So you're actually learning to focus your attention in a particular way. So put down the object first and just rest back for a few moments in open presence, in this openness of awareness. Sometimes it just helps to feel the space all around you, that the space has no edge, has no boundary. It's just space. And that you can feel space. It's so simple to feel space and to rest in this open presence. So I'm just going to get you to do that with me in absolute silence and stillness and spaciousness. Just to rest in open presence for perhaps a minute. Just rest back. If this is the first time you've done this, you might just find that actually feeling like you're resting back and dropping your awareness down into your heart, or even right down to your belly. And when you rest as that, or when you rest back as feeling that breathing down into your belly or breathing in your heart, you just rest back. It's very effortless. You just simply open. So we're just going to do this for a moment together. If thoughts arise, that's okay, because you're just resting as a presence. Just allow them to come and go. You don't need to do anything, just rest and open presence. Now I want you to take your object, or if it's sitting in front of you, you can just bring your attention to the object. Stay resting as this open presence. So simply stay open, stay vast, remain limitless, and just bring your attention to the object you've chosen to focus on. So I'm using this clear, transparent glass. And just rest your attention here on the object. Inevitably, a thought or a feeling or even a judgment about the object might arise. It might be words like, oh, it's a lovely glass, or, oh, it's a dirty glass, or, well, I don't know, it's just a glass, or whatever your object is. You might even wonder things like, what? Why am I doing this? What's the point? Sotni Rinpoche said when he first did this exercise, he was wondering, when he was first taught it, he wondered, what's going on? Why am I doing this? So you're just resting and open awareness. And the point comes next. So just really bring your attention right here. So there's just the object. And it's okay, whatever thoughts, feelings, or judgments arise. And now turn this attention inwards and simply become aware of this awareness that perceives not only the object, but also the thoughts and feelings and judgments surrounding it. Be very gentle. Now you're just aware. You're aware of the glass or the object and the space all around it, and the space all around you. Maybe the space around your computer. And in a similar way, if a thought about the glass or the object arises, you're aware of the thought or feelings or judgments too. And it's okay, right? They just arise and they abide and they dissolve, and you're just aware of them. It's quite a relief just to let them come and go, like waves in the ocean. So this very gentle experience of awareness, of being aware, emerges. You start to recognize that whatever you see, however you see it, is accompanied by all sorts of thoughts and emotions. Stuff, flotsam and jetsam, that are actually remains from how you've seen things. Perhaps how you were treated as a child, or how you were seen in the eyes of your parents or your teachers. All of that's right here. And what you're recognizing is that the thoughts and the feelings that are arising are actually all stuff and remains of ego and identity. Right? Because right at this moment, you know that myself and Kevin and all of us sitting here are all perceiving this glass or the object. We're all aware of different stuff arising, according to our own perception. Could even be past things might arise, maybe times when you were loved as a child or not loved or neglected. Maybe you were seen as a success or a failure, maybe by teachers, maybe you were bullied in the past, or maybe other kind of judgments and feelings arose. And all those come up, and they're all okay. They're just arising, abiding in the soul. And you're just present with whatever arises, seeing it for what it is, recognizing. So when we turn our awareness like this inwards, when we actually bring our attention, just as Kevin was explaining how important attention is, when we bring that inwards, we become aware of awareness itself. We begin to surrender all those images, thoughts, feelings, pasts, futures, ideas, concepts that we hold about ourselves and the world around us. We actually begin to surrender them. Just simply by looking at this glass or this object. We begin to see how our experiences, past, and our ideas and our beliefs about the world actually are patterns, and that they turn into present patterns, that their past actually is influencing our present capacity to see. And we start to glimpse the possibility of this connection between what we see with all its judgments and our capacity to see with openness, just simply to rest back as awareness itself and perceive openly, without judgment, without label, without naming. That there's just this sense of isness. As you are doing this, just for a few more moments, and as you rest back more and more as this open presence, as this awareness of awareness itself, you might feel a merging of the object and the space and all that lies beyond. You know, when we bring in this capacity to see clearly, just like Kevin was showing us with the graph, this capacity to meditate with clarity, that we're open to whatever arises, just simply sitting effortlessly with this object, open and clear. We're resting as awareness of awareness itself. Notice how very gentle and open and peaceful it is. This clarity, this equanimity, this tranquility. You might find your whole body technology is resting too. There's a sense of relief, of just resting back in this clarity. Because all that emotional or cognitive residue, all the flotsam and jetsam of life is just kind of flowing past. You're no longer grabbing onto it. You're aware of it. Just like you're aware of the glass or the object without grabbing onto it or pushing it away. There's just this simple, open clarity. This simple, open, empty clarity. Because the emptiness is just the opportunity to allow everything to arise. And just recognize it. Just recognize it with clarity, whatever comes. So you can put down the object and just rest back as open presence. And just simply become aware of awareness itself with clarity. There is this clarity that's present. This is clarity. Open. Presence. Cool. Open. Presence. Just for a minute. And silence and stillness and spaciousness. So Kevin, thank you for the beautiful explanations of your meditation practice and the graph. They are truly liberating in themselves. And also thank you everybody for your practice. You may have glimpsed the opportunity just to rest back as openness and clarity. And you also may have glimpsed that if thoughts and feelings and perceptions come, it's absolutely okay. And they flow because they are also not separate. They are actually self-liberating in their own essence. They're the water of your ocean. they're the waves, and they're still part of that ocean. So you start to just allow by resting back as awareness of awareness itself. So Kevin, thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for that beautiful practice. Thank you all for watching and listening. And if you'd like more information on subtle energy meditation, on practices like this, and on our Raising Our Vibration community of practice, you can visit raisingourvibration.net. Thank you again for your practice, and bye for now. See you next time.